Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, April 1st, 6:30 p.m., and I'd like to welcome you all to the Columbus Common Council Committee of the Whole public hearing on the 2024 Street and Utility Reconstruction Project. And if I could please have a roll call.
Finkler. Here. Gray.
Present.
Hammer.
Here.
Motive. Present. Reed. Here. Welke.
Present.
Steiner.
Here.
Acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is a public hearing on the preliminary special assessment report for the 2024 street and utility reconstruction as it relates to residential property owners on portions of West Selden Street and West Richmond Street. And I'm going to pass it over to Jason.
Good evening, everyone. So this first agenda item is for the residential portion of the special assessment for the 2024 street project. As we have discussed, this assessment has been approved by resolution by the council to move forward. It also follows our assessment policy that we have in place for assessment of full curb and gutter, full concrete driveway aprons, full cost for sidewalk through driveways to the property owners, and then there's a cost share for sidewalk. In this particular project, sidewalk is on one side, so the cost is split amongst all the residents on that block, and then 15% of the cost of the total storm sewer. We've prepared the report, and it is before the council tonight for public hearing. So I guess I don't have anything further for the public hearing, so I'll open it up to you guys to hear questions or comments.
At this time, if there's anybody who would like to speak on this agenda item, you can come up to the podium, state your name and address.
And that would be people that are associated with the Selden Street and the Richmond Street reconstruction portion.
Okay. If nobody wants to comment, I will close the public hearing on the residential portions of West Selden Street and West Richmond Street. Next item on the agenda is public hearing on the preliminary special assessment report for the 2024 street and utility reconstruction as it relates to commercial property owners on portions of Commercial Street.
Thank you, Amy. Like the residential, this is the commercial portion of the street project for this year. Again, this was approved by resolution to prepare the special assessment that's before you tonight. As you note or recall, this one was slightly different than the residential because it obviously is a different type of roadway and a different application. We did spend some time at a committee of the whole meeting here not long ago kind of talking about what I was proposing or recommending to bring forward tonight. That does include full cost of driveway culverts and end walls for each driveway associated with the opening of that driveway, the full cost of the driveway aprons, those are asphalt, and then 15% of the cost of the storm system, staying in line with what we do for the residential section. But this did include, obviously, the ditching and reestablishment of the rural section of the roadway. I guess with that, I don't have anything else to add for the report tonight. Otherwise, if there's any questions or comments.
Okay. If there is anybody who would like to make a comment on the commercial property owners portion of Commercial Street, I'll open the floor to you now. Can you put the microphone on?
Which is the button?
Facebook. There you go. I got a Facebook. All right. So, Rich Schneider with 200 to 224A Commercial Drive. I guess one of the questions I had, Jason and I met out on site. So we've got two culverts, one that's on our main entrance, the other one that is on a secondary entrance on Commercial that I think originally, historically, was part of like a storage yard when Mid-State Builders owned the building. But the question I have is, one of the things I'm kind of debating is whether I should keep that second culvert or not. And the only concern I would have is that the space that that second culvert leads into is actually some vacant space. I'm considering possibly building another building there at some point in the future. But if I took that culvert out, if I didn't have you guys install it, what is the risk to me? Could I ever get a driveway back in there in the future? And that's the question I got.
So I like how everybody looks at me. No, I appreciate the question, Rich. And I think right now, as it's approved, we're just approving the assessment to move forward with that. We can always determine later, even up to the point of construction, if you choose not to put that in, we can still pull that out. And then we'll remove it from the final assessment when we do the final report with the final quantities that were constructed. So we can still move forward. So I think you have some flexibility to leave it in there now with the option of taking it out up until the day we're putting in culverts. At that point, code does allow you to have 2 entrances per street frontage, and they have to meet the requirements of the code. I think commercial, I think is 32 or 36 feet wide. So you likely could install that at a later date at 100% of your expense, which this is pretty close to that.
Yeah.
I mean, it might cost you a little more to install it at a later date. So what I would say is that at that point, you would just need to pull a driveway permit and get it approved through the Public Works Department. They would review that. So I don't see anything here that would be outside of code. If, in my mind, that you would pull it now and decide to put it in later, you could certainly permit it. So I think that's up to you, but as we have it drawn up tonight, it is in the special assessment. And again, I think if you want to leave it in there and you have no issue with that, we can make that decision when we get a little closer to that point.
And you know offhand, what's the spacing requirement then on, if I've got the 2 drives there, if I did pull it and then in the future come back and say, hey, I want to put it in, what's my spacing requirement from driveway to driveway?
There is no spacing requirement driveway to driveway, but the only thing you would have to be aware of is there is a spacing requirement from the intersection because you are on the corner of the intersection. So that I would have to look up, but I believe it's 20 feet or something. So I don't believe you're anywhere near that distance, nor would it probably make sense to put it that close if you had a parking lot there anyways, from the fact that you would have some parking bays in there, which would give you that setback anyways. So again, logistically, we just have to make sure we're code compliant, but I don't think moving that around slightly really matters a whole lot to us.
Perfect, thanks. That's what I need to know.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, at this time I will close the public hearing then. And next item on the agenda is to consider resolution number 3-24 to approve special assessment report for residential property owners on portions of West Selden Street and West Richmond Street.
And this would just be a matter of us moving this to the next meeting, so.
Is everybody comfortable moving that forward? Okay. The next item on the agenda is to consider resolution number 4-24 to approve special assessment report for commercial property owners on portions of Commercial Street. Is everybody comfortable moving that forward? Okay. And the last item on the agenda for the public hearing is to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion from Alder Finkler and a second from Alder Gray. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
All right, and we will move into the regular council meeting tonight on Monday, April 1st, and welcome to everybody that is here, and also welcome to those that are watching on the cable channels. With that, could I have a roll call, please?
Here. Hammer.
Here.
Gray.
Present.
Motive. Present. Reed. Here. Relke.
Present.
Steiner.
Here. Okay. With that, if you would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we have had notice of open meeting for this meeting tonight. And with that, I would look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll move to approve tonight's agenda. Alder Motive will second.
Okay, I have a motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Motif to approve tonight's agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. Public comment, Sarah Baldy, is that how you pronounce? Anyways, if we could put that back to the next meeting for your comment, because that's when that's up, so.
That's on that, oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anybody else that wanted to speak on an agenda item that didn't get a chance to sign up? It would be the agenda item for the regular meeting. Okay, if not, then I would move on to the consent agenda, and that is the Council and Committee of the Whole minutes from March 15th, 2024, and March 19th, 2024, and then to approve of the operator license for 2023 through 2025 licensing period for Michael S. Jones. There is just one thing that, if you might notice, that the meeting that was held on March 15th says Tuesday, but should actually be Friday. So with that,
Alder Rolke will move to approve the consent agenda with the adjustment as stated.
Gray seconds.
okay, a motion by Alder Rolke and a second by Alder Gray to approve tonight's consent agenda. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just have a question, actually. Susan, on regular meeting minutes on number 5, can you just double-check the spelling of the last name of the applicant? It just looks wrong to me, and I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anything further?
We need to make an amendment that includes that then.
Are you amending it to something?
Just a typo, yeah. I don't know if we need to.
Do you need amended one with a typo? As long as she made a motion to.
Are you actually amending it?
It should be,
That seems to be the question.
Okay.
yes,
If you're making a change, then you should
Okay.
approve with the amendment.
yeah. So Alder Motif will make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the change from Tuesday to Friday on the 15th, and the change in the spelling of Lapnow, we changed the U to an O.
Then we would need
Alder
a
Steiner will second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Motif and a second by Alder Steiner to approve the consent agenda with the mentioned corrections. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda approved. On to new business, number 1, and that is to consider and take action on resolution number 3-24 to approve the special assessment report for residential property owners on portions of West Selden Street and West Richmond Street.
I'll move to approve the special assessment report for residential property owners on portions of West Selden Street and West Richmond Street.
Gray will second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Gray to approve resolution number 3-24. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passed. Number 2, consider and take action on resolution number 4-24 to approve the special assessment, try that again, special assessment report for commercial property owners on portions of Commercial Street.
Alder Motif will make a motion to approve resolution number 424 to approve the special assessment report for commercial property owners on Commercial Street.
Alder Rolke will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Motif and a second by Alder Rolke to approve resolution number 4-24. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 3 on the agenda is to consider and take action to accept the relinquished designated seat from the Columbus School District in the regards to the makeup of the Cable Commission.
Alder Rolke will move to accept the relinquished designated seat from the Columbus School District in regards to the makeup of the Cable Commission.
Alder Motive can second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rolke and a second by Alder Motive. Any further discussion on this item? Alder Gray.
I'm just a little confused, like, do we actually need to vote on this item, or just need to approve the ordinance changing it? Like, I think this is a little superfluous. I don't think this is necessary. Attorney Johnson's nodding his head.
I think, I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because you can do this either way. If you want to formally accept, that's fine. Otherwise, the school has actually voluntarily relinquished its seat, and your next agenda item will take care of it. And so either way is fine with me. And as long as you have it on the agenda, you may as well just, you may as well just vote on it.
So is there
I'll
any,
remove my,
Well, no.
it's already done, so.
Yep, keep your motion, vote on it,
Okay.
move on.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting?
aye.
Opposed? Okay. Then, next on the agenda would be to consider suspending the rules for the composition of the ordinance for the Columbus Cable Commission.
Alder Motive will make a motion to suspend the rules regarding the Columbus Cable Commission.
Alder Steiner, second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Motive and a second by Alder Steiner to suspend the rules for ordinance concerning the Columbus Cable Commission. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Just a little thing, since
Should have had a
I'm
discussion, sorry.
not going to be here anymore. Like, the agenda item should just be the ordinance. The motions need to go through suspending the rules, waiving it in order to move forward without doing the process. But the agenda item should not be suspending the rules and waiving the reading, because that is not what we're discussing. We're discussing the ordinance. So just some housekeeping for y'all in the future, since this is my last day.
But we've done this in the past.
It's
So-
not how the agenda should be. The agenda item is the ordinance. The
This-
motions follow that procedure.
This has been, this particular process has been noticed up at least a half a dozen different ways in the times that I've been here. And no matter how we do it, it's not right. So technically, I think Ian is correct. These are my words for today, and I'm more than happy to do this differently. So, because every way we do it, I don't like.
Well, this is something we can work on in the.
Struggle through tonight.
But tonight, we'll go through.
Struggle through
so-
tonight.
Okay, I didn't, who made the motion to suspend the rules?
Motive and second by Steiner.
Okay, so a motion by Motive and a second by Steiner to suspend the rules. And so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next would be to waive the reading of the ordinance for the composition of the Columbus Cable Commission.
Alder Rolke will make a motion to waive the reading for ordinance 790-24 concerning the composition of the Columbus Cable Commission.
Alder Motive will second.
Okay, a second, or a motion by Alder Rolke and a second by Alder Motive to waive the reading and of ordinance 787-24. Any further discussion on that? Oh, I'm sorry, read the wrong number, 790-24, thank you. Okay, then all in favor of waiving the reading?
Aye.
Opposed? And then I would accept a motion to adopt ordinance 790-24 concerning the composition of the Columbus Cable Commission.
Alder Steiner will make a motion to adopt ordinance 790-24.
Motive will second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Steiner and a second by Alder Motive to adopt ordinance 790-24. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance adopted. Number 5 would be to consider suspending the rules for ordinance 787-24, and that is the ordinance to repeal and recreate Section 240, Order of Business, and Section 251, Citizens' Right to Address Council of the City Code of Ordinances. So looking for a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll move to suspend the rule.
Steiner can second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Steiner to suspend the rules for ordinance 787-24. Further discussion on this item? Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. Did we ever straighten out the part of striking off topic from the cow section?
Yeah, that's not separated out, and it is pointed out in the minutes to reconfirm.
I don't, so the 2C.
Where we had left it, it was my understanding that it would be on topic for council meetings, but it could be off topic for cow. And that's not separated out in the ordinance we received.
All right, so since we're all just talking technically, the motion was only to suspend the rules, and we are not discussing the actual ordinance at this time. But that is correct, and that is kind of what I was waiting for when we got to that motion, but we are not on that motion, so let's focus on what we're doing.
Okay, so any further discussion on suspending the rules? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And next would be to motion to waive the reading of ordinance 787-24.
I'll move to waive the reading.
Steiner will second.
A motion from Alder Finkler and a second from Alder Steiner to waive the reading for ordinance 787-24. Further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then next would be to adopt ordinance 787-24.
Is this where we make the motion to send it back? Because, like, we're not going to adopt it.
Yeah.
You can't have a negative motion.
Yeah. Alder Gray moves to not approve ordinance 787-24 in its current form and to revisit it in the committee of the whole on the next regular scheduled meeting.
Motive will
Wait.
second that.
Are we sending it back to Cow?
We could just go to the
Go back to council, right?
Alder Gray amends his previous motion to be the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
I'll accept the amendment.
Okay, then a motion by Alder Gray and a second by Alder Motif to move this to the next regular scheduled council meeting of April 16th for the separation of comment items.
exactly why we should just have the ordinance on the agenda and not that process. This would have taken 5 seconds.
So, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So you have your direction, Attorney Johnson.
I've already done it.
I think the wrong one was included in the packet.
Yeah, because that's not what we have.
I see that. It's all good.
Okay.
It happens. Bring it back again.
Okay, find where I'm at. Number 6 is to consider and take action on task order 2024-01 with Rupert Melke for construction services related to the 2024 Streets project.
Alder Gray moves to approve the task order 2024-01 for, let's see, for the West Selden Street, West Selden Street and Richmond Street and Commercial Drive project.
Second?
Okay, motion by Alder Gray and a second from Alder Finkler to approve task order 2024-01. Project includes street and utility reconstruction for portions of the West Selden, West Richmond, and Commercial Drive project. Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, roll call, yeah. I even have it written down, roll call. Thank you.
Gray.
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Wilkie.
Aye.
Steiner.
Aye.
Winkler.
Aye.
Hammer.
I don't vote.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Next, number 7 is to consider and take action on task order 2024-02 with Rupert Melke for street maintenance projects, which would include roadway patching and chip seal.
I'll move to approve the lump sum amount of $15,000 to assist the city with planned street maintenance projects, including roadway patching and chip sealing.
Reed will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Reed to approve task order 2024-02. Any further discussion on this item? Roll call?
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Wilkie.
Aye.
Steiner.
Aye.
Winkler.
Aye.
Gray.
Aye.
Next on the agenda, number 8 is to consider and take action to direct staff to pursue negotiations with Lamps Landing LLC for development of property at 1400 Park Avenue.
Alder Steiner will make a motion to approve pursuing negotiations with Lamp Landing LLC for development of property 1400 Park Avenue.
Motive will second.
Okay, motion by Alder Steiner and a second by Alder Motif to direct staff to pursue negotiations with Lamps Landing LLC for development of property at 1400 Park Avenue. Further discussion on this item? Alder Finkler?
How are we going to handle the issues that have been brought forward on the DeForest situation with this developer and the potential that I've heard through the grapevine that if found guilty of things could lose the realtor license and may affect our development? So I don't know. I just am asking how that is going to be handled by the city to ensure that we do not have a problem.
Any guidance on that?
No. We will enter, the city staff will enter into negotiations with this developer in good faith, and we will see where it goes. What happened in DeForest, which I know absolutely nothing about, is not relevant to what happens in Columbus. And if this particular person is at risk of losing his realtor's license, that doesn't really have anything to do with whether a hole is going to be dug in the ground and property is going to be developed. So I think that's a little bit premature at this point in time, and we will do our due diligence as best as we can. That's all I can say at this point.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Roll call, please. Yes, we'll take a roll call on this.
Reed.
Nay.
Relke.
Nay.
Steiner.
Aye.
Finkler.
Nay.
Gray.
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
Tied vote, 3 nays, 3 yeas. Hammer.
Aye.
4-3.
Okay, next on the agenda then is to approve the claims in the amount of $234,406.94.
Alder Motive will make a motion to approve the claims in the amount of $234,406.94.
Alder Rolke will second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Motive and a, excuse me, second by Alder Rolke to approve the claims. Any further discussion on this item? Roll call, please.
Relke.
Aye.
Steiner.
Aye.
Finkler.
Aye.
Gray.
Aye.
Motive.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Okay, and report of city officers.
Just a couple of quick things. Was able to attend the Easter egg hunt over the weekend on Saturday at Fireman's Park. Want to compliment Amy Jo and her staff on a great job. There's a lot of effort and time that goes into organizing an event, really well attended. Was able to bring family, and everyone really enjoyed their experience. So that was great. And then, as everyone's aware, Election Day tomorrow. Susan and a lot of other staff have put a lot of time and effort into absentee voting process and handling the questions that come up, and looking forward to the election tomorrow. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll just reiterate what City Administrator Matt Amundson had stated, because that's what I was going to mention too. So the crowd out at the park was amazing, considering that in the morning it was the rain that we were getting. So for Amy Jo and her staff to accomplish what they accomplished, that was phenomenal. Then a note that this is Alder Gray's last meeting, and I would like to thank him for his service to the city and wish him the very best in what's coming next. With that, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Rolke to adjourn. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Anybody need a couple minutes, or do we want to just roll right through? Let's do it. Welcome to the Columbus Common Council Committee of the Whole. It is Monday, April 1st, 7:03 p.m., and could I please have a roll call?
Finkler.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Gray.
Present.
Motive.
Present.
Reed.
Here.
Relke.
Present.
Steiner.
Here.
Apologize, I do not have an agenda. Gave it away.
And the meeting has been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Okay, thank you. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve.
Gray will second.
I have a motion from Alder Finkler and a second from Alder Gray. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Next item on the agenda is citizen comments, and I have Sarah Baldy. And if you could just state your name and address, please.
It's on. It was on. I'm Sarah Baldy. I'm at 720 Avalon Road. I am here in the capacity of my position as treasurer of Columbus Preschool. We are here tonight asking approval from the city to begin a parking lot replacement project. The city owns a small percentage of the parking lot from the maintenance shed through to the baseball fields. So we do require approval from you to go ahead with the parking lot project. We are not asking for any financial assistance. We have fundraised enough for that on our own. We are just here solely for that. And then we do have one ask, which is that we would coordinate our travel, our project with whatever travel commitments you would have. So we would let you know the duration of the project, all of that, to maybe not impact anything for baseball season or whatever. Is that all?
Thank you.
You good? Okay.
Is there anybody else who wanted to speak who didn't get a chance to sign up? Okay, hearing none. In your packet, you will find committee minutes from the Beautification Committee on 2/19/24, the Library on 2/20/24, Police Fire Commission from 1/31/24, the Utility Commission from 3/4 and 3/21 of 24. Next item on the agenda is to discuss the requested disposal of city-owned assets to 2019 Ford Police Interceptor SUV.
Good evening. I'll just provide a little backstory to kind of get you where we're at. In September of last year, if you remember, we bought a squad early. I was planning to budget for one for this year, but one became available, so we bought one at the end of September with the council's approval, and that squad has recently been outfitted and is now in the fleet, which with our fleet succession plan, we have one to retire. Normally how we use our squads are when they're taking out of marked patrol capacity, we completely strip them down, and we use them roughly for a year as a training car to attend training to and from, firearms training, court, somewhere where a fully marked squad isn't needed. Also for miscellaneous errands, hauling things, because when we put a prisoner cage in a car, that cuts your cargo area down to nothing, so this car doesn't have one. So we use it for a lot of purposes. So typically, what I would be asking is to retire the 2017 squad car that is currently in that capacity, is what we call the training and court car. And then we would move the 2019 that we are retiring into that capacity. Near the end of last year, the 2019 started with some performance issues, and we had it in a couple of times, not able to diagnose it. It was very sporadic, but when it happened, it was fairly serious. So we kind of put it in a secondary capacity, knowing we would have this opportunity in the spring to potentially just cycle it out. Fast forward, it went to Portage in February, January, February, roughly, to get stripped down at our outfitters, and it barely made the drive back. So we took it in and had it diagnosed, and it's diagnosed as the transmission. And I got a quote from a transmission place in Beaver Dam of the low 5,000s and from a Ford dealership in the low 6,000s. I don't think it is worth putting that much money into a squad that we are going to use sporadically during the year, and I would just like to essentially auction that one off and continue to use the current one we have in that capacity for another year until we're ready with our next cycle out. I mean, we're not going to get a lot of money for it without a transmission. Hopefully somebody will buy it maybe that has that transmission capability of switching one and can get some bang for their buck that way. But it's foolish to stick $5,000 or $6,000 into a car that we will probably put a couple thousand miles at most on in the stripped down capacity as a court and training car for the year. So by city policy, I put it out to all the departments. I stressed the transmission issue. There were no takers, to my surprise. So in essence, I'm asking to get rid of, dispose of the 2019 stripped-down squad car through usually an online auction format. I usually use govdeals.com or Wisconsin Surplus. I've had great luck with both. Instead of the 2017, which under normal circumstances we would do. We had it back at the police department, and we use, our lot's starting to get full, so we used the old countryside as storage for some of our stuff, and it barely made the drive there. So whoever buys it is going to have to tow it or flatbed it away, that's for sure. But I don't think it's prudent to spend that money for something. We're going to lose on the end in selling it, but it's foolish to invest that kind of money in it. So that's my request.
Alder Gray?
I mean, I'm very much okay with disposing of it. My big question is, and this does come forward more frequently with the chief than anyone, is disposal of assets. So we have a specific outline of how to dispose of assets. The chief has already followed that. My question is, should the council review whether or not, after that's been followed, it needs to come to council for approval? Because I don't know if this is something council should really worry themselves of on a regular basis, to be honest. I think this is something that between the chief and the administrator could be taken care of per ordinance and doesn't really need to be here, in my opinion.
I'll add that if we get things where I want them to be in terms of replacement plans, that this would all be laid out in the budget discussion. And I think Alder Gray is right that this is, as long as we're following the purchasing policy and the disposal, that this is probably something that can be handled as we go through our budget planning process and approve and adopt a budget.
Alder Steiner?
I just want to agree, and I think it's something that maybe the Police and Fire Commission could actually deal with as opposed to us, unless there's a special request for something that needs to happen with the asset.
Any other, Alder?
Oh, thank you. I guess I'd want there to be a certain financial amount where it might come to us just to give us a heads up, just so that we're not losing large materials that we might have another use for. I just really like it, the openness of us being informed.
Alder Gray?
Our process that the chief has already followed does force him to put it forward to all other city departments, seek out any other possible uses for it. This isn't something where we would ever run into some large asset that could potentially be used elsewhere in our community, because that's already been taken care of, that's already been sought after, that's already been done. So it's just, I think it's not a good use of the staff's time, the city council's time, and money and efforts. And I think that should be a discussion for your next committee of the whole. I won't be here, but that would be my recommendation, and for us to move this forward to the regular meeting.
Mayor Hammer?
This would reflect in your report also.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we would be informed.
And the money would
So-
be accounted for coming in
Yeah.
through Crystal,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's.
I absolutely agree.
It could easily be very streamlined between
Yeah.
updating the policy and working with the city administrator and.
Can I make one comment?
Yeah.
Just one clarification. I believe, I'm really grateful for Chief's forwardness in bringing everything to you, but the one item that should be going to you is when someone's disposing of an asset and asks to keep those funds for something else. That would have come to your attention and been brought to you for your request. Okay.
Right, otherwise it should go into the general fund, like per ordinance. That would be an anomaly.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Is everybody comfortable moving this forward to the council meeting? Okay. And then, Matt, can we get yeah, okay. Next item on the agenda is to discuss the request from the Columbus Preschool for parking lot maintenance. We've already heard about that. I don't know, Matt, did you have anything you wanted to add to it, or Jason? I don't know if you had anything to add to it at all.
The only thing I would say is I would just want a couple more details from the applicant so we can help streamline that process and make sure it happens. And I just gave the applicant my card and just said that we can coordinate that on the staff level if it's okay with the council to move that forward. I don't see an issue with anything requested here tonight.
Alder Gray?
My only question is like the timeline that it's planned for versus the timeline that we're planning on some street projects. Like, could this, since we do own part of the property, is this something that we could add on to a bid and then assess back to the preschool at 100%? So that, I mean, it could save them a fortune if we already have this company out there doing this work. Could we have them pave the preschool parking lot and then just do a 100% assessment for the preschool?
Great question. I've been told more than 3 times this year that generally the pavers have different crews that do parking lot versus roadways. And so we've worked with some of the businesses to try and coordinate the crews that are in doing the large city projects with their projects. And unfortunately, we're not finding much luck with that. As weird as that sounds, right? Pavement's pavement, it's not. So, but what I can say is that there are several businesses that I know that are paving parking lots, and I think it would make sense that they all contact the same contractors and see if there's a way to line up the crews that do the parking lots, so when they come through, they can do them all. And so we're happy to share that information, I think, with them from that perspective. So logistically, I don't know that I've been trying to take that onto our projects to find ways to help costs, but I think this is enough work in the city of Columbus this year to stand on its own for parking lot work for the businesses. And so I've been sharing that information amongst all of them, saying, please call, find out who is being used, and go ahead and try and coordinate amongst yourselves. And I think there's a lot of that going on currently. So I'm hopeful that that will get good pricing for everybody as well.
Any other questions? Alder Gray?
I mean, I think that's fair. I don't think it hurts to ask if they would be interested in doing it, is kind of where I'm coming from. You know, like, it doesn't, if they say no, then they say no, and, you know, it is what it is, and we move forward with them doing it on their own. If they say they would be interested in doing it, maybe we can save the preschool 10 grand, you know, like, that's a lot of money. Like, so, it was just not that we have to do it, it's maybe they would be interested in doing that at the same time. It's not a massive parking lot.
Right. I'm happy to vet that. There's no issue with that.
Is everybody comfortable moving this forward for a vote?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is discuss license requirements and ordinance revisions related to ATV UTVs. Who is leading off here? Go ahead, Matt.
So as a follow-up from the last committee of the whole, we've included the RIO as their ordinance as it relates to ATV and UTV, and would be looking for direction for how to, you know, if there are segments of this, if it's a majority of this, I think Paul would just be looking for direction on what additions you're looking for our ordinance to bring to the council at the next meeting.
Alder Finkler?
It looks like the RIO's ordinance is a little excessive, and I think we could probably just add the couple things that we have shown concern of and not make this such a big deal because we haven't had any problems historically. Our police chief has spoke to no issues. I do think we need to tighten up around open intoxicants. I don't think any of us would disagree on that, but I think following some of the other changes, I just don't think are necessary at this time, and we should pick the couple we want.
Alder Reed?
Well, thank you. I am very thankful to receive RIO's ordinances, and I love it. It's pretty intense, but that's honestly what I was hoping for. There's a couple little things I have questions on, but overall, I would like to take essentially the whole thing. And I'll bring up my questions in a minute.
Alder Motive?
I support replicating this particular ordinance. I'm very pleased to see the, under 10.4.3, number 2, the driver's license requirement. I did go through what it takes on the DNR site, what it takes to be safety certified for a 12-year-old, and it discusses a lot of off-road safety and nothing that they should know about driving in traffic. And I think that people really need to be licensed to be driving the ATVs in traffic.
Alder Gray?
I agree with basically everything that Alder Motive said. I think this goes, I don't really see discrepancies with this ordinance. I really like this ordinance in its entirety. It addresses, I think, everything that we've discussed in the past, especially Alder Reed and myself a long time ago. I think this is the direction that we should be going. We should also remember that this ordinance was intended to allow people to connect to trails. That's the entire intention of driving in the streets. The ordinance was not intended for people to be joyriding ATVs and UTVs around Columbus. That's not the intention. We allowed it on all streets so that people wouldn't have to trailer their ATVs or UTVs to the trail outside of Columbus or where it would connect to the nearest street. It is not an ordinance that is meant to be an alternative to driving a car in Columbus or driving around the city. So you have to keep that in mind when you're looking at this ordinance. It should be tight. It should have a lot of rules because it is not supposed to be an alternative form of transportation inside of the city.
Alder Finkler?
I think we are just getting a bit over the top here. I have been reached out to by people that come into Columbus and do business in Columbus that these changes would affect. They aren't people joyriding. They're people that are coming and picking up groceries in Columbus but taking an ATV. Who cares? Like, as long as they're following the rules, they have a license, they're not drunk, they're going the speed limit. I just don't understand why we care. We are going to hurt business coming to Columbus, and we are also making a problem out of something that isn't even a problem. Like, the problem is open intoxicants. The problem is not having a driver's license. Let's address those. Let's not make restrictions on time of day. Let's not make restrictions on which months. We haven't seen any problems in Columbus yet. I just don't understand why we're trying to start problems where there wasn't. And on top of that, by making all these rules that we haven't seen a problem of, the oversight that you're going to be putting on Chief Weiner's staff that have already been short-staffed for how long now that we hear about, to me is just, it is not worth, the juice is not worth the squeeze, if that's the correct saying. I mean, to me, it just seems a bit much.
Alder Motive?
If this is going to be whittled down at all, I want to make sure, and I apologize, I'm trying to find it real quick. I wasn't prepared to talk on it. But there is a paragraph on here on cruising to make sure that they're not just cruising up and down the streets. And I think that that does need to be in the ordinance because there actually, in my neighborhood, there has been a problem with that. Thank you. It's number 2 of 1043.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. So, yes, overall, I love this. I had a small question on the section 1043 under miscellaneous regulations, number 3, insurance. The last sentence is, shall carry liability insurance and other insurance coverage consistent with state law for the operation of a motorized vehicle. So our state does not currently require ATVs to have insurance, but would this be saying it's like for any other motorized vehicle? So that little sentence, I would want to look into, possibly clean up. I have a question on still 10.4-3, 11, hours of operation. I think we need to have discussion. I don't know if we want to start our hours of operation at 6 a.m. And then maybe we want to have it a little past 9. So I'd like to discuss that at some point. And then what was the other one? And my last question is still 10.4.3, subsection 5C, use of headgear. And it's just a little confusing. I would probably want to just have a simple must-have helmet for 18 and under. This one, you can be 12 and not have a helmet if you're going hunting or fishing, which seems odd. I would just want to have that part just very clean, very simple for the underagers.
Alder Finkler?
I think we should address the severe discrepancies that we have voiced concern over and not address things that haven't been an issue. I have no problem with you can't be drinking and driving. I have no problem with under 18 wearing a helmet. I don't know, cruising seems pretty subjective, and I don't know how the police chief is going to manage that and may get a bunch of unnecessary calls to go sit someplace and never see somebody come back again. But open intoxicants, that type of stuff, fine, but I still think that we might be going a little excessive on areas that we have not seen a problem with.
Alder Gray?
Thank you. So going back to Alder Reed's comments and concerns, I would like to kind of address those one at a time so that we can do that, so that we have something more logical to move forward. The first one that you mentioned, the insurance, 10-43, section 3A3. Paul, if you want to, would this require them to, I'm guessing the intent is to have them, to require the insurance as if it was any motor vehicle, but that's not really spelled out very well. I think that is something that we should look at.
The way I read that last clause in that section is that an ATV, UTV operator is supposed to have the same insurance as a motor vehicle operator is supposed to have,
Right.
whatever that happens to be.
That's how I read it too, but I agree with Alder Reed that it's a little vague, so maybe we should just alter that to make it, really specific and clear, because not everyone that it reads an ordinance and needs to understand an ordinance or a law has a law degree. So I think just making it clear, like Alder Reed mentioned, is probably a benefit.
Can I chime in on that? Attorney Johnson, would that basically ensure that anyone driving had to be 16 or over? Because
Yes.
I'm pretty sure you can't be
Yes.
insured. So that'd be one way of addressing the age requirements.
Mm-hmm.
That would, I think that would be accurate. That would take anybody who's under 16 off the map.
And then the next one was the helmets. Was that your next?
Wait, should we discuss each one?
Oh,
Like-
sorry.
As a group?
Well, I mean, we can.
'Cause-
It's more of getting something holistic to discuss, but we
Okay.
can discuss each item individually.
However you want to do it, Amy, you lead this.
Since you already have the floor, Alder Gray, why don't you finish your thoughts and we'll come back?
Yeah, I more just wanted to clarify exactly what Alder Reed was saying, because we kind of jumped into Alder Finkler talking again instead of discussing what Alder Reed went at. So I wanted to clarify everything she was saying before we moved on, was kind of my goal. So the next one,
Let's see. Oh, the next one was, sorry. The next one was hours of operation.
right? So now, right now, it's 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Right now, you have no.
We don't have one.
Well, in this, yeah.
Can we bring Chief Weiner up to answer any questions that we may have on whether or not things have even been an issue?
I mean,
Thank you.
and I mean, also, things not being an issue yet isn't necessarily what you make a law for. Like, just because we don't have a murder every day in Columbus doesn't mean we don't need a law that it's illegal. Like, go ahead, Chief Weiner. Well,
Just
no,
a
that's
couple,
exactly
couple
what
of things that I myself are set on, and I think there's a general agreement amongst that. Number one, the open intoxicants. There still seems to be some debate about that, which when this whole ordinance was being looked at and incepted a year, whenever ago, I came up here and I said that the current statute, rules of the road, they call it, for motor vehicles, doesn't apply to open intox for a UTV or an ATV. That's the law. And following that meeting, it was posted on social media that I was giving incorrect information out. And recently, the city was contacted by someone reporting that same thing, that the rules of the road covers open intoxicants in UTVs and ATVs, and it does not. The DNR warden was here at the previous meeting and said the same exact thing. There's a whole bunch of statutes of the rules of the road that do apply to UTVs and ATVs. They are such things as traffic light violations, stop sign violations, yielding right of way to emergency vehicles, what to do upon approach of emergency vehicle, those types of general things. But alcohol, open intoxicants, in the rules of the road as it pertains to cars, trucks, autos, those types of things, is not addressed, does not cover UTVs and ATVs. So for those that think that it's covered under another statute, it is clearly not. If you look at the first section of the rules of the road in Wisconsin statute, it gives the specific statutes that apply to UTVs, and open intox is not one of them. So I think everybody's in agreement with that, so I'm not going to beat that to death, but I just want, for those that seem to think that it's covered in another provision, it is not. So I agree we should address that. Licensing as well, I agree. We've dealt with several people who have shown irresponsibility to hold a driver's license. I've made a couple of stops of people that have had 8, 9-page driving records, revocations, drunk drivings, failure to pay tickets, failure to have insurance, all those types of things. Having a driver's license, as we know, is a privilege and not a right. And for those that have been irresponsible and had some behaviors that they've lost their license for, we want to say, hey, you can't drive a car in Columbus, but you can drive a UTV. I mean, it's our families that are out there, it's us that are out there. You know, we want to be amongst having some structure and control over the people there. So I hope there's no disagreement on that. And as far as insurance, the only addition that I would ask for that, just looking at Riles under the 1043 Parent 3 insurance, put some provision in there, buzzwords about providing proof, because there is no. With a motor vehicle, there is a provision in the statute that you have to provide proof to a law enforcement agency upon request. It can either be in a little paper card, it can be on your phone, it doesn't matter. But in here, it just says must have proof. While someone's saying, I'm insured, I don't have a way to dispute that at the time of a contact. So I would ask that some little blurb be added about and provide proof upon request into the provision about insurance. As far as the curfews, I mean, I think 9 o'clock is a little early, to be very honest with you. I don't think there's a lot of late-night UTV activity out there that I hear from my staff, but we do see them out in front of the bars at night. And I wouldn't be opposed to some sort of a time restriction, but I think 9 o'clock is a little early.
Chief, do you know if there are restrictions for the trails, time restrictions for the trails?
I don't know anything about the trail organizations because they're all outside of the city and in different townships. And again, as Paul has said previously, different townships can have different. Paul may have more insight into that working with all the other communities.
I mean, I think that's relevant to our time restrictions, honestly, because the whole point of the ordinance is to connect to those trails. So if they have time restrictions, then we should have time restrictions.
I think in taking the safety test this afternoon, I think if I remember correctly.
I'm pretty sure.
There were, yeah.
I'm pretty sure on state property
Yeah.
and everything else, there are time restrictions, so we should follow them.
Remember when you are having this conversation that do not use the word trails. Trails and routes are two completely different things. So your safety training may have dealt with trails that go through state parks and things like that. Totally different than what we're talking about here. As far as I know, at least in Columbia County, there are no county-wide rules governing hours of operation. Because in every municipality that I deal with, that's big. It's this conversation. And some have went unlimited, and some have really tried to ratchet it down like Ryle, and it goes both ways. So I don't think there's any, I know there's not a statewide rule, and I I don't recall if Columbia County has done a blanket ordinance for time or not. I don't think they have. And it's just a mishmash.
I really thought there was a state rule. Like, it's been a long time since I've looked at anything like that, but I'm pretty sure there was a state rule, at least for state trails, not routes. But, I mean, I think that's something we should look at for the time requirement, is what the people around us have. Because if you can't connect to a trail at 9 o'clock at night, then you shouldn't be allowed to drive an ATV or a UTV in Columbus at 9 o'clock at night, because the goal isn't to drive them around Columbus, the goal is to connect to routes.
Alder Steiner?
Well, to all this, I would like to see, I like this ordinance. There's a lot of things in here that are pretty good. As far as ATVs and UTVs in the city, they should be written pretty much like any vehicle. Any motorized car that drives through the city, just the same restrictions, the same rules, because it is a motorized vehicle driving through the city. As far as the only thing we really need to discuss is whether or not we want these to be another vehicle on the road in the city, or something that just connects to the routes and trails or whatever it is that they're connecting to, in which case they just be passing through, maybe stopping at a gas station or a restaurant here and there, but just passing through for the most part, as opposed to running errands and driving around. As far as the cruising thing, I'd rather not see ATVs, UTVs just cruising around in circles, because that's just a recipe for disaster. It's a very difficult thing to ascertain what someone's doing unless you happen to see them multiple times racing through town, which they have, limit restrictions on their speed limits. So, I mean, that can pretty much easily be ascertained what they're doing. But as far as these things go, I mean, as long as they're obeying the rules of the road, and those rules are clearly labeled out like we do with cars and motorcycles, I don't see too much of an issue. And I'm fine if they just have to connect to routes and whatnot from their houses. It makes no difference to me.
Alder Finkler?
I think it's really unfortunate, the stereotypes that I keep hearing up here during this discussion, racing around and, there's got to be speed limiters on there. I mean, we're talking up here as if folks that own ATVs and UTVs are reckless endangerment when we allow motorcycles on the road and they're doing wheelies down the road going 65, 70 miles per hour. And we have to add a little bit of context to this. I really feel like the items that Chief Weiner had pointed out of concern are, simple things to address and apply to a regular vehicle on the road. I don't think other than that, we should be limiting anything. I mean, I have a motorcycle and I cruise around Columbus, and I'm telling you, my motorcycle is a heck of a lot louder than an ATV in this town, and I can make it even louder. I'm just saying, we need to be careful of, accusing ATV riders of being racing around and all of these stereotypes I keep hearing. It's just very unhealthy conversation.
Can I just clarify, I'm not calling out anyone to being anything. These things are incidents that can happen, and these vehicles, as stated by the DNR person who was here last time, can I finish? I'll let you finish. These things are not rated for roads. They're not rated for the streets. They have a bit of a different torque to them than your motorcycle or a car. However, they can ride around on these flat surfaces just fine if they've obeyed the rules of the road. I'm just trying to mitigate the problems that can occur by people being reckless. I'm not saying the ATV and UTV drivers are reckless, but we do the same thing with anyone who owns a dangerous weapon or a tool. You mitigate the dangers and the losses that can happen from people being reckless. I'm not saying that they all are. All these people are fine people, a majority of them follow the rules and obey everything, which would make all this kind of unnecessary if that's the way we want to go. We have to set these rules and boundaries in place because that is our purpose here, it's our job. I'm just trying to mitigate the problems that can occur, not saying that everyone is doing that.
Paul, I think I saw your light first.
Just to clarify, the county ordinance has a 10 p.m. 5 a.m.
Thank you.
10 p.m. 5 a.m. prohibition, but only on county highways. The county ordinance only applies to county highways. They've stayed away from town roads for the obvious reasons, and they stayed away from city streets for the same reasons.
Alder Gray?
Thank you, Paul. That's kind of where I was getting to. I just wanted to know the time, so I would personally prefer to see it match up with the county's times. So that was 10 PM and 5 AM. That makes sense. That makes sense to me. Because the entire goal of this, no matter what anyone wants it, the entire goal of the original ordinance was to connect to the trails outside of Columbus. It wasn't to add additional vehicles cruising around Columbus, it was to connect. So if they are not allowed to drive on a trail at 10 PM outside of Columbus, there is no reason for them to be driving inside of Columbus at 10 PM on a recreational off-road vehicle. That's just common sense. And, I mean, I did not hear a single alder accusing a single ATV or UTV driver as being reckless. I think it's ironic that Alder Finkler, who accused one of the developers that we're looking at, you're making accusations every meeting. You make inappropriate accusations, and you are out of line constantly.
Stop.
Enough,
Then you try saying
enough,
everyone else
enough,
is.
enough. We're on here, this is something that should be really simple.
Well,
It
if
should
you
be
would
really quiet.
Check her instead of only me. I wouldn't have
I'm
to.
checking everybody, just,
You never check her. That's the problem.
We need to either come up with some direction for what we're sending back and what we're asking to get back, or we need to put this down for the night and move on to the next item if we can't.
This is heightened. I would suggest we put this down for the next meeting.
Alder Gray?
I think you have an ordinance on the books that was pushed through that does not address a lot of issues that should be addressed, and you should be taking care of this in a timely fashion, not setting it down for a next meeting. This is something that is a public safety issue, and you should work through it.
Well, I did say we need to do one or the other, so if you have a suggestion for what we should push back to be, go ahead, Paul.
The last 1 minute of this conversation is exactly how you have the ordinance that you have now. I'm finding it, I'm laughing, trying to laugh to myself, but finding this very humorous, because if you look at the ordinance that I think was in your last packet, and it was very close to what Rio has on the books now, with a whole bunch of issues addressed, the open intox and the hours of operation and the helmets, and I don't know if the insurance was in that one or not, but we started out with a pretty detailed ordinance, and because the council at the time couldn't get it across the finish line, the fallback was adopt the statute and call it a day. That's how you are where you are. And personally, every municipality that I've dealt with, and there are many, wrestles with this. So you are not unique, and at some point you just have to make choices. And the open intox is a no-brainer. The ones that people struggle with the most are the helmets, the insurance, and the hours of operation, and the driver's license. Those are the ones that are important. The rules of the road are the rules of the road for the most part. And some of these things are much bigger issues than others. So if you're going to bring this back for another, you haven't given me anything that I can really bring back to you yet, except that I can put Rio into Columbus form so you have something to start looking at, and maybe that helps. But as far as actually whittling down your content, you haven't given me a whole lot to work with yet. So
I propose we move forward with the stuff that we all agree on, which is no open intoxicants. You have to have a driver's license and helmets under 18. We don't have a serious immediate safety concern in Columbus. However, those are things that we can all agree need to get addressed before they do get out of hand, and then further conversations can come and take longer to deal with later.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. I wanted to have a short conversation on age restrictions.
Okay.
I'm looking at the ordinance here, and it's very confusing. So no person under 16 can operate, the utility vehicle unless they're under direct supervision. But then it seems that supervision does not require that the person under 16 years of age have continuous direction and control
Right.
by the person over 18. So that is not what I would define supervision as.
We all agree that we want a license though, so that wouldn't matter.
So, yeah, so I was just wondering, is that like something we'd probably be getting rid of? Are we going the full license route for direction?
I think we are all in agreement on the license, yes.
Would that also include insurance?
Yep.
Yes.
And proof of
Yep.
Proof of insurance,
And helmet.
under 18.
So you're
No open intoxicants.
you're basically saying that if you're under 16, you're not driving an ATV in the city of Columbus regardless of the state law that would allow a
Correct.
person under 16 to do so.
Correct.
Correct. Alder Gray?
I mean, the only amendment to the age I would make is if they have a learner's permit, just like they could in a car. Like, I think if they have a learner's permit and they're with an adult, then that's fine. I think it should just mirror motor vehicle regulations for the age. The time restrictions, I think, should mirror the county of the 10 PM to 5 AM, and the insurance should be proof. And all mentions of snowmobiles should be removed. Other than that, I think the rest of the ordinance coming from Rio, if we make those alterations to this ordinance from Rio, we could move that forward.
Alder Moda, and then Alder Finkler after.
I would,
was first, but it's
Go
okay.
ahead.
She can go ahead.
go ahead, Molly.
I just wanted to ask the chief, do we need to add any, like, does open intoxicants cover, you can't drink and drive? Because I know we're really like stuck on open intoxicants, but I know we're also not protected under the drinking driving part either, correct? So do we need to address those separately?
Paul can probably answer that more directly, just address it in one provision of no driver or passenger.
Yeah.
Plus open intoxicants, just like the rules of the road alter.
Yeah. Okay. And I think we should stick with that, is like you have to, like, the rules of the road apply to an ATV. I think we should bring back the curfew and the time limits to another discussion.
Alder Moda?
I'm fine with the suggested changes, all except for the removal of the time limit. But I would also really like to add in that cruising paragraph that is in the ordinance. I do say the majority of the people have been really good. I do have someone in my neighborhood, though, who does like to cruise. And I have called the police multiple times. And, you know, it is a hard thing to prove, but if it's in there, it gives the police something to fall back on.
Alder Gray?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. We should keep all of those in, move that forward, and if there's something that you feel the need to remove later, remove it later. I don't agree with keeping it as small as possible and adding to it. I think put all the rules in that concern council, move that forward to the next meeting, and if there's a specific one that Alder Finkler wants to call out that she doesn't think should be included, she can make that motion when you're deciding on it then. But just move all of them forward with the slight alterations that we have, and let Alder Finkler make a motion to remove it at the next meeting.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm also in favor of moving essentially the whole thing forward, but just with the slight and sometimes important changes we discussed. Oh, and for the open intoxicant part, is it just open intoxicant, or it's open intoxicant or demonstration of intoxication?
That was my question that I asked already.
But I didn't understand the answer.
The DNR code is very specific about drunk driving UTVs. It's a whole separate, it's like its own language opposed to chapter 346 with drunk driving in a car. It is very specifically spelled out on its own as far as operating a motor UTV or ATV while impaired. So that doesn't need to be addressed whatsoever. with the open intoxicants that we're talking about. Correct, Paul?
Yes, it's, the OWI is basically the same set of rules, but it is specifically outlined in the statute. The implied consent applies, I think, I'm pretty sure it does. It's .08 still, if I remember right. So all of those rules are there. Your open intoxicants is geared and you know, having a beer in the cup holder, that's an open intoxicant. Having one in your hand, okay, that's obvious. That's what you're looking for. And driving down the street, drink with a straw in your mouth, that's, you know, that would work too. So as long as I have the floor, insurance.
Proof of.
Proof of, open intox, helmets under 16? 18. Age of operation, no one under 16 without a learner's permit. Hours of operation, yes, no, maybe?
10 p.m. to 5 a.m. 5 a.m. to 10, yeah. I said it backwards, that would be the opposite of what we want.
Yeah, 10 to 5. Those are the ones for now?
To change, otherwise the rest of this ordinance,
I'm
the
gonna-
RIO ordinance.
I'm gonna format RIO to Columbus, make sure these are addressed, and bring it back.
Thank you.
Okay.
Alder Gray, did you have more to add?
Yeah, just one little thing. So a lot of the mess that we're in is because we were under the impression that the statute covered a lot of our concerns, and it obviously doesn't. So just to put everything to peace, perhaps we should have the portion of ordinance that covers, the statute that covers drunk driving, just so that we can verify that that is there and we don't need to add anything to ours. Like, we don't necessarily need it in the ordinance, but could that be part of the packet so that everyone can see that it exists?
Do, and I think what RIO does and what I'll do is it basically adopts all of the state law except as set forth in this ordinance. So you'll have the state except as modified by the local.
Everybody comfortable moving this forward as it is now?
Yes.
Next item to discussion related to not filing the vacant deputy clerk position. And Matt?
Yeah, as discussed at the council workshop, met with city treasurer, city clerk, human resources administrator. We think with some increased use of technology and adjusting roles and responsibilities that this is a good way forward for our staffing. Happy to answer any questions or clarify anything.
Does anybody have any questions? Are we all comfortable moving this forward? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is discussion related to increasing city staff wages.
So also as discussed at the council workshop, this moves all positions within the city, full-time positions in the city, to the midpoint of their salary range, with our two exceptions, and our recent hirings identify increase opportunities, you know, as laid out in offer letters. So that will come with evaluations and that, but everyone else would be moving to the midpoint of the range. I've also recommended adjusting the ranges of the police department administrative manager, the recreation director, and the human resources administrator.
Anybody? Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. I had a question under the third paragraph, the impact to the 2024 budget. It says proposed increases of 20.
I know what you're asking,
Okay.
and I missed a line. So the 27,124 would be the general fund, the increase to the general fund as of, if we put these in place as of July 1st. And so the next set of numbers would be the increase as of what it would, the impact to a full year budget as of January 1st, 2025, without any COLA or, because that's my concern. We have the funds to do this. It's very budget neutral with the elimination of the deputy clerk position and these increases. It's still budget neutral as of January 1st, 2025. The only thing that may make it not budget neutral is cost of living adjustment, which would be normally factored, that's a normal issue every budget year, right? So as it stands right now, these changes are very budget neutral for 2024 as well as 2025.
Thank you. I have two questions on that. So you answered the first one. Thank you. My second question is on the library fund. I can't tell if it's losing $3,432 next year.
It'd be an additional demand to the library fund because there are positions in the library that this impacts. I've had initial conversations with the library board chair, president of the library board. He's receptive. They want to stay on a similar path as the city, so their intent is to have this on the library board agenda on April 16th as well. I'm just pointing out that there's impact to other funding mechanisms of the city and not just the general fund.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or concerns? Are we comfortable moving this forward?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is to discuss proposal from C.O.W for software services related to human resources.
The other follow-up item from the March 12th workshop was C.O.W. We discussed the insight and government jobs being able to move our process to an online format. I don't think I need to spend a lot of time talking about the importance of that and the value of that. There was direction at the workshop to look into resources that may benefit our staff that C.O.W could provide. And so there are two modules that they are recommending as best practices. Their Learn format is an online training center. They have 1,400 preloaded courses that they're constantly adding and revising. It also includes, and I think this is really cool, a PowerPoint-like template that if we wanted to create our own training, there's a way to do that. Say we had a training session in this room and could film it. We could upload it, assign it to staff, require that they complete that by a certain time that weren't able to attend. And that's how the module works. You're able to, as a supervisor, assign your staff the pertinent required training, whether that's bloodborne pathogen, sexual harassment, whatever the training requirements may be. It allows higher level to review and manage and see who's completed, who hasn't. They get, I think if I remember right, they get notices on 90, 60, and 30 days out of the deadline to complete the training. So this takes us to a whole new level of training programs and requirements that we can provide and enhance for our staff. I'm excited about that a lot. And then the second portion, or I should say the third option that they've laid out is Perform, which is their online performance tool. It would be it's continuous review. So if I note Susan had exceptional customer service to someone in the office, I can go in and put that, it timestamps it, and then the next time Susan and I meet to talk about her review, that's there and recorded. And that works for both positive as well as not so positive things. But it's continuous feedback. The employee gets noted that a supervisor or coworker noted their performance. And so there are 5 preloaded templates in the software, but we can also adjust to fit what we want from a performance evaluation tool as well. So I think these are addressing a lot of the things we've talked about. It's just whether the timing is right and the implementation. I laid out costs, and the one thing that I want to caution with the costs, I laid out the cost of each of these for year 1. There are, if we do 1 or 2 or 3, there are reductions by bundling. And you can give me direction tonight as to what you want to look at the council, and then I can come back with a price proposal that matches what your interest and intent is moving forward, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Alder Gray?
I mean, you addressed, I'm glad you went back to them and addressed, like, my primary thing was it made sense if we had an ongoing thing for performance reviews and things, like why have all this front-loaded stuff and then it ends? So it being ongoing, I think it doesn't make sense to pay anything unless we do the ongoing, because like otherwise we're spending a bunch of money up front and then we just kind of drop the ball and don't have it. Like, I think you need the ongoing. And I think there's a lot of great tools, like even for like when you have poll workers, you can create training for them that you can send out to them via email that they can complete. Like, how streamlined is this going to make it for so many of our departments and so many of our employees? I personally think the council, because I'm not going to be here to vote on it, should look at doing the full package.
I would tend to agree.
I would,
From our workshop, at least, I think we were all on the same page.
the one thing the one thing that I would add is, I think this speaks to our retention concerns as well, that both of these, the learn and the perform, can be viewed by the staff as, these will help us with retention efforts, in that we're gonna have a better trained staff with more resources than they currently have. And then the performance, we know we've got to do a better job on performance eval, and having a tool like this for continuous feedback is a step in the right direction to getting consistent performance evaluations.
So are we all comfortable moving this forward? Okay. Discussion of moving to enhanced use of technology for council and committee meetings.
All right, so here's where it gets interesting, and you can tell me we're gonna keep things the same as they've been, that's fine. What I'm used to is kind of how I've done tonight. I've tried to show things, and this is not a great meeting for it, but when we're looking at street construction plans, or even I won't say the word like architectural review, but if we're looking at buildings and things like that, to give feedback to an applicant, whatever it might be, that having this, David's able to tie into what we're showing for those at home, so there's an enhanced feature there. A lot of communities have struggled with, how do you go to a more sustainable, how are you not printing out a lot of paper and packets that immediately get recycled after a meeting. And so a lot of communities initially, we're going to look at Chromebooks, we're going to look at iPads, and it created an IT nightmare in some scenarios. And so by introducing the technology that we already have and putting a small investment into replacing and upgrading the monitors for the council, as well as replacing the projector that needs a new bulb, and we can probably, I'm very confident, David is confident as well, that we can buy a new projector for less than the cost of the bulb that needs to be replaced in the projector, that we can kind of introduce this technology. Council will have to decide on paper packets and to what extent and how we want to keep doing that. My hope is that this would be valued. A lot of the previous communities I've been in, a lot of the council members would download the packet to their device, mark it up, make notes in it, bring their device into the meeting if they had things like that. It's just a more sustainable long-term solution, I think, to address. It's an easy way to say that we're being more sustainable. It's kind of step one on a sustainability path.
Alderman Moda?
I 100% support sustainability. I would just ask that when you're looking at technologies like the Chromebooks and stuff, take into consideration that you currently have one alder who is legally blind. So I need to make sure it has the ability to increase enough so that I can read things. Thank you.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. I would still like a packet. Thank you.
Alder Gray?
I think it's a great thing. I mean, as many of you know, it's something that I've wanted to see on council a long time. But I don't know if replacing like these monitors and things of that nature really makes a lot of sense. Like having things up for the public, I think like tech that would work better for what the council needs would be like a paper tablet, like a tablet that has low light, it resembles paper, so like people who are hard of sight and things of that nature can view it better. These monitors, they honestly take up more space and reduce our effectiveness more than they add anything. So I personally would like to see these monitors just disappear. And just something simple like that, it doesn't need email capabilities really, like it just for our packets. Like instead of getting paper packets, you get a paper tablet with packets, and it can have the presentations in it. Council people can go back and forth, easy, mark things up on it. And those are cheaper than any Chromebook or anything else. And they're typically a lot more durable and last a lot longer.
Alder Steiner?
I'd have to agree with Alder Gray. I think an e-reader will probably be a little bit easier and less expensive, and we're not going to have a whole mass amount of apps on this. It's just going to be our packets. So we don't need a whole bunch of activity and downloadable power on it, essentially. And it could be something that we keep here at the, the office here, and we just take on whenever we need it for the council and bring it back. And it'll always be charged. It's always safe. It always knows where it is. We check them out. But, everything should be done in baby steps. So, let's not jump in and just remove everything and rip everything apart and just go head force into this IT nightmare that it could be. But I do like the projections and fixing that stuff equipment. That'll be great for everyone else to see, especially at home, and not being able to follow along with what's going on between the TV and what we're seeing.
Matt?
Oh.
Alder Finkler?
I'm good with going digital.
Alder Reed?
Well, I'm still a bit of a Luddite. I do like the idea of the electronic paper, although I'll still want a paper packet. I would like to have screens available here. It's absolutely impossible for us to, read that, and we might want to look at someone that's talking. So I would like to have a working screen available here, both for council and for other groups that use this space.
The challenge that David and I talked about is we would likely eliminate the in-house screens and cover that up to give you more workspace, because we're going to take away some space by putting a more tabletop monitor that we're going to have to look at making sure it's not blocking your view of the audience, those type of things. So we'll do some homework and explore, and that can probably come back to the COW for further discussion at the next meeting.
Mm-hmm. So. Any additional thoughts? Okay, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Alder Finkler and a second from Alder Steiner. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned.
What's that?